Oops. All right, Boker Tov. Today's daf is Pei Zayin 87, and we pick up in the middle of Pei Vav Amud Bet, and we're in the middle of these Agaditas about Avraham and the angels and feeding them and the feast, because the Mishnah spoke about if you, according to one position in the Mishnah, if you contracted to give to feed your workers, then that's an additional than the norm, and then you'd have to feed them almost an infinite amount because they're the children of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So that led to all discussion about the feast that Avraham prepared for the angels, showing how elaborate it was, or the food that Avraham, I guess, gave to others, and therefore the food that Avraham's children would be deserving of if you made that type of if you contracted with them. So that's how we got there. But now we're in the middle of the whole discussion of Avraham and the angels. So we pick up with the following. Amar Rav Yud Amar Rav. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry. No, I skipped. I'm sorry. Excuse me. 3 lines from the top. Amar Rav Tanchun Bar Chanilai. 3 lines from where the lines get the widest, the end of the line. Amar Rabbi Tanchun Bar Chanilai. La'olam al yushana adam min minhag. A person should never change from the custom, which is an interesting echo of the Mishnah of Hakol K'min Hagamedina, which is talking about how the norms of the society determine the parameters of a contract. So, the same I give the minhag here, but it means when you go to a place, when in Rome, what is it? Act like the Romans. Do as the Romans do. So act, according to the practices of the place. Sharei Moshe alilama Rome. When Moshe went up to heaven, v'lo achal lechem, he didn't eat bread. Right? It says lechem lo achal mayim lo shatad, just like the angels. So umalachei ha'ishar yisardu lamata, when the heavenly angels came below, v'achlu lechem, and they ate bread, because it says, Avram fed them and they ate. It says, is that really possible that they ate? It's not in their nature. It's not possible. It would look like they were eating, but at least they made it look, they were respectful of the customs. However, Avraham attended to the heavenly angels himself personally, God repaid this by directly taking care of his descendants, of Avram's descendants, of Bnei Yisrael. And everything that Avram did through a messenger, through an intermediary. So God took care of the descendants of Bnei Yisrael also through an intermediary. So let's take a look. Nice little matching up of psukim here. Avram ran to the cattle to get a cattle to serve the angels. So a wind came, says, directly from God, and that gathered up the slav, the quail. So that's gathering up meat. So the gathering of the meat. He took the butter and the milk. So I, God, directly will bring down bread from heaven. So there it is, God directly. Now, what does it have to do with butter and milk? So I think it's a play on words, because the word chem'ah and lechem, okay, so you have that, and also chalav. Two of the letters of the word chalav are lechem, right? Lach. So I think that's what we're doing here. Okay. V'hu omeid alehem tachas ha'eit, and Avram stood under the tree and attended to them. So hineni omeid lefanecha shem al Torah. I, God, will stand by you by the rock. Okay. But of course, there it's about, and there ultimately it's about providing water to the people. So the same way here, Avram was standing there and attending to their needs as they were eating. Avram attended them to send them off. God would walk in front of them, so it's with them, in front of them, but nevertheless attending them and seeing them on their way. So that's what Avram did by himself. Now, what did he do through an intermediary? Let some water be taken. So he's not taking it. Let some water be taken. So Vikita Batsur Yatsumai Mimenu V'Shataha'am. So Moshe, you hit the rock and you bring the water out to the people.
That's the same example
as the tzur. But what is God is standing there, being present for the people, like Avram was standing there. And the other is the actual bringing of the water, which is what Moshe did. The same way Avram had somebody else bring the water. Now this linking up of these psukim argues on Rabbi Chanina bar Chama bar Chanina. Rabbi Chama bar Chanina Rabbi Ishmael B'schar shlosha zachuli shlosha. For the merit of 3 things that Avram did, the children merited 3 things. B'schar chem avachalav, the butter and the milk. Zachu leman, for the man. Again, it's an interesting connection. What does the chema and the chalav have to do with the man? But again, I think it's the lechem play on words.
Rabbi Chama also.
Oh, that's an interesting point. I didn't catch that. There was a Rebbe Chama there. Yeah, that's very good. Also, b'chaman chem'ah. Okay, b'schar who omeid aleihem, Avram attending to them. Zachu la'amud anan. The pillar of smoke. Now that's just so the only difference here is that it's not the same matchup. Before we had Avram stood and attended to them, and God stood by the rock. And here Avram stood in the standing and attending to them is matched by the pillar of the cloud. Okay. Bishar yukachna me'mayim, let a little water be taken. Zachu lebe'irasha Miriam, the well of Miriam, which is the smiting of the rock, which brings forth the water. According to Chazal, that was the be'er of Miriam. So therefore, that is matched up, although it's describing it differently. So it was only a question of how you matched up the standing. Was the standing matched with God standing by the rock, providing the water, which is, I guess, more closely connected to Avram attending to them while they were eating, or to the pillar of cloud which led them? Okay. Now we're going to go and darshan the psukim, pasuk by pasuk. We're going to elaborate on the psukim. Some of this, what we might say, might be familiar to you from Rashi on the Torah, who quotes a lot of this. Or maybe the Gemara got it from Rashi, I don't know. Okay, so that was a joke. Okay, so let some water be taken and wash your feet. Okay, so Rabbi Yana, Rabbi Yishmael, Amrulo, they said to him, do you think we're Arabs that bow down to the dust on their feet? I mean, Rashi quotes this. I never understood what were Chazal responding to. Did they really think that the Arabs, prayed to the dust on their feet? I mean, they prostrated on the ground. I never really understood what phenomenon that was responding to. Also, I wonder, pre-Muhammad, what was the religion of Arabs? Does anybody know?
They were idolaters. They were idolatrous. Hessel worshipping individual.
Okay.
So his religious revolution was to make them monotheists.
Okay, so they were basically your standard idolatrous pagans. Right.
They have the note.
Yeah, what does the note say? Somehow I question ArtScroll's historical accuracy, but let's hear the note.
It says it's from the Maharal in the second explanation. Right?
Yes.
The Arabs of Avram's era were a nomadic people who traveled frequently. They worshipped the god of the roads and thus viewed the dust of their feet, a residue of the roads, as something to which they should bow down. Okay, so that's interesting. I don't know if it's historically accurate, but it's interesting that the fact that they're also a traveling nomadic things means that somehow. Yeah, it is funny. Sometimes I don't know where it is. I think somewhere on the New Jersey Turnpike, when you're driving, they have some statue there about what it is, about something about, I don't know, some saint of the highways or saint of the traveling or something. Anyway, all right.
There's one in Maryland too.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about Maryland. Anyway, fine. Okay, so fine. They worship the dust of their feet, maybe because they worship the god of the travels or of the roads or something. Anyway, so is that what you think? Because you need us to wash our feet? It's so funny they interpreted it that way. Maybe he just wants it like, if you're weary, and your feet have been walking on whatever, it's a way of rejuvenating. So anyway, do you think we're Arabs? So they said, Yishmael is your descendant. So I guess that's the end of that story.
That's Rabbi Yana, the Rabbi Yishmael.
Oh, that's also an interesting point. Yeah. Rabbi Yana, Rabbi Yishmael. Yeah. But that's interesting. But Rashi says, but here Yishmael is used as an insult. Where Rashi says, for Yotza Mimenu is like respectful. But Rashi says, Mimcha Yotza Haregilasas Cain. It's your descendant that worships idolatry. That's the that's the Arab and the pagan. That's not us. So it's a good point that it's a Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yishmael, who's saying this, and it's Yishmael that's being pegged with this. All right, but anyway, somehow interestingly, the story just abruptly stops there. He has no response. All right, and so whatever. I don't get what to do with this because clearly that wasn't his intent, and clearly it didn't have to be interpreted that way. Anyway,
washing is a big deal in some Christian groups.
What?
Foot washing is
well, that's true. So now we're going to double back and start at the beginning of the story. God appeared to him in Elonei Mamrei. He was sitting by the door, by the opening of the tent, by the heat of the day. Mike Yom, what does it mean the heat of the day? I'm Rabbi Chanina. Also Yom Shlishi Shel Milah Shel Avraham Haya. It was the third day of Avram's Brit Milah, and we assume that's the day that is most painful based on the whole story of Shechem, because Shimon and Levi come in and wipe out the city on the third day.
It's Rashi on the parsha, right?
Yeah, I know. That's where the Gemara got it, straight from Rashi on the parsha.
Yeah.
Okay, so Shlishi Shel Milah Avraham Haya Uba Gadosh Baruch Hu Lishoba Avraham, and God went to do Bikur Cholim to see how Avram was doing. Hotzi Hakadosh Baruch Hu Chamim Minatika Kedei Sheliatriachos Utzadik B'Orchem, and God also made it a very hot day in order that there wouldn't be no guests, so Avram could just spend his time resting and recuperating. 1 minute. So Abraham, who of course wanted guests and saw that there were no guests coming, sent Eliezer, his servant, to go out of the tent and to go find guests and bring them in. If they don't come to you, you bring them in. Out in the heat of the day. Out in the heat of the day. Yes. Eliezer went out and couldn't find any guests. Amalo. So he said to him, am I not trusted to you? 1 minute. Where am I? What is this? You can't trust
the servant.
No, but I'm not getting it exactly is, so who's saying, I'm not Avram said, I don't believe you. Oh, I thought I was reading it rhetorically.
I don't believe you.
I'm sorry. I was reading it rhetorically. Okay, let's do that again. Okay, so he sent Eliezer. So Shabri Eliezer Lemefek Lebar. Eliezer didn't find it. Avram said, Lo me'em lecha, I don't trust you. You went and you found, you didn't do a good enough job. I'm going to go check myself. Right? No kidding. That's what they say. You can't trust servants. Okay, it's like when it reminds me. When my wife tells me to go find something and my keys or whatever, so I looked, I couldn't find them. She says, I'm going to go look. And then she finds them in 2 minutes. Okay. Yes.
They also suggested maybe he was trying to prevent Abraham from having to go out.
Oh, that's nice. He really didn't look. He just was trying. He was complicit with God's plan to basically protect Abraham from having to worry. That's a nice idea. Okay. Lay some news about it. I don't trust you, slave. Okay, so Avram went out to check for himself whether there was going to be wayfarers, and he saw God, the Kaya Bava, that God was standing there by the gate. I knew to see that's what it meant. Al not tavor me'al avdecha. God, please don't pass by your servant. You've come to visit me. Please stay here. Meaning he was welcoming God. Who was his guest? His guest was God. So God, please come in. Okay, so that's the first, by Yeral and Avram said, I'll not ta'avor me'al avdecha, because Avram basically first sees not the angels, but first sort of like sees God, and they're asking God to sort of stay. Okay, now the angels themselves, so like interesting, like a little bit shift. Okay, Kivan the Chaza or God, whatever. God saw the Ka'asa B'Shari that he was tying and untying his bandages from the Milah. I'm a lover to make him hacha. It's not appropriate, God is apparently saying, for me to stay here with Avram and revealing himself like this or attending to his wounds like this. He lifted up his eyes and he saw that there were 3 people standing over him. And he saw and he ran to greet them. So what does it mean? They were standing right by him, and then he had to run to meet them. Were they next to him, or were they far away? So Meikara Asu Kamu Alei. Originally, they come and they stood by him. When they saw that he had pain, it's not appropriate for us to be here. So that he's dealing with pain, we have to give him his space. So therefore, they stepped back. Okay. Now, I have to tell you, I don't really get how the Gemara is weaving this all in, because first it says God came to visit him. Was the visiting of him before this idea, was that an experience Abraham had of God's presence, and then there's the idea of scaring away the guests? Or was the visiting of, or keeping away the guests, or was the visiting of him the thing that we say afterwards? That when Abraham went to the door, he saw God's presence. Was that the visiting of him that the Gemara was referring to? And what was that seeing of God's presence? Was that the angels, or was that something else? First, it sounds like it was just God being present. But then when it speaks about the angels moving away, and it spoke about God moving away, it sounds like God's visiting of him was in the form of the angels. So, right, it's not exactly clear, at least to me, and Tosfos also deals with this, about to what degree is this idea that God came levaker sachole, sort of saying that was manifested through the presence of the angels, or is that something distinct from the angels? So if you look at Tosfos, let's go to Tosfos. Chazir HaKadosh Baruch Hu Dekaya Bava, Tosfos says, "V'hainu d'chsiv al na tavor me'al avdecha." Hachamat Shechina Yerotza Listalek Me'al Avraham. The Shechina wanted to leave. But Mavni Matmesh Lifi Sheratza Avram Leilech Likrat Orchim Lachnisam Amal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lamti Machi Kans Ad Sheyachnis Otan. Right. So there he discusses, and I think Rashi says this, that God told Avram, Avram told God, wait here. I have to go welcome the angels and bring in the angels. So that distinguishes between God's visiting of Avraham and the angels visiting of Avraham. Okay, but here it sounds a little bit like maybe God's visiting of Avram was the manifested through the visiting of the angel. So a little unclear. Yes, Rabbi Dov.
It's really a powerful model of with the kind of pastoral sensitivity. You go into the room, but then you see the patient it's going to compromise his dignity. So you
step back. That's a very good point.
Go back in.
Right. It's the people that do Bikur Cholim and like a Shiva calls or whatever, and they're not really clued into what the person needs. Right. That's a very good point. That sometimes they say, the normal drasha that they say, the point that people say is, Medrash says that God came to be Mevakar Cholim. Like, what did God do? It doesn't say God did anything, right? So it just said, yeah, exactly. Like, what Woody Allen says, 95% of life is just showing up, right? Just being there. That's the Bikar Cholim. But Rabbi Dov makes an excellent point as well. Sometimes also, that the right thing you do, the best way you do it is that's when it's time to step back and to leave, or to just not give the person space. Okay, so now the Gemara continues. Okay, Mani Ushlish Anoshim. Who are these three people? Michal, Gavriel, Raphael. So these were the three angels. These three, we're going to identify them. Of course, the naming of the angels occurs only later in Tanakh. But then Chazal go and they try to link earlier, anonymous angels with specific named angels. So Michael, Shabal Levaser Sarah. Michael came to inform Sarah of what was going to happen. Raphael, that's Refuah. Shabal Rapayat Avraham, to heal Avram from the Brit Milah. Gavriel, which is like Gvura and power. Azal Mehafche L'Stone, to overturn stone. Okay, so the Gemara said that each one had a separate job. Now, but doesn't the verse say the two angels came? So why did you need two? You only needed one, Gavriel. No, Michal stayed along to save Lot. So the same way Michal, so it seems like the linking here that Michal was coming to give good message to Sarah, he was the one that was coming to do, so he came to save Lot. He was coming to, bring, do good things. Tikanami Dichsiv, why did they pick, Michael over Raphael? So Tikanami Dichsiv, Vayafoch et Harim Ha'el. He turned over those cities. So only one person, only Gavriel, actually did the destruction. Michael was there to do the good stuff, to save Lot. Loksi Vayahafchu, they turned over. Shmamina. Now, Tosos, if you look at the Tosos, because I think this is also parallels like a Rashi on the Torah. Tosos says, "Who dasalu sheiv lo?" Tosos says, "V'tema." Taminim v'reishis rabba dein malach echad shtei shlichus. One angel can't do two things. So how could Michael both inform Avram and save Lot? Yesh lomar. The Gemara here doesn't say that, by the way. Yesh lomar. The kan lo asa Michael b'shlichus achas ki mas echad shebiser tzara. That no, he did one job. He told Sarah. Then that job was over. Then he got assigned to another job. Okay? So he wasn't doing two things at once. One job finished, he began the next job. Okay, that's one way to explain this Gemara. But no, the Raphael who healed Avram saved Lot, and there it works better. Healing Avram and saving Lot. Refuas Avram in Niskeret. The filu ba kmokein the rapot Avraham. First of all, he says it doesn't say explicitly in the psukim that an angel came that Avram was healed. So maybe that's not an explicit shlichus, so we're allowed to assign him another one. Number two, healing somebody, saving somebody, those are connected types of ideas. Okay, so Tosfos tries to figure out the proper economy of the angels' jobs. Okay, back to the Gemara. Okay, Gali Avram, see, by Avram it says, as soon as Avram offered them hospitality, they said yes. I'm sorry, why? How's it different by Avram? It says, when it came to Lot to receive, he had to pressure them to accept his hospitality. Top of Peizayin Amud Aleph. So you see here that you refuse a small person initially, and you don't refuse a big person, right? It would be like offensive, I guess, to somebody who's a chush of a person. They extend you an invitation. Somebody who's like not so chush of, maybe it's offensive for you to be so readily saying yes. Only so that's a certain type of derech eretz, I suppose, or a way of reflecting people's different social status. Okay, ksiv, it says, he offers them bread, but he gives them a nice steak. So what's the story? I'm Rebbe Lezer. You see, righteous people promise a little and they do a lot. Rishayim, as opposed to the wicked people, they promise a lot and they don't even do a little. Minolan, where do you see that? By Ephron. By Ephron, initially it says, shekel kesef, it's only 400 shekel. Forget it. Nothing. You don't have to pay anything. Okay, of course, even that, is clearly like dropping a hint. Like it's the way, scholars have said this, that this was actually, that whole exchange there by Avram and Ephron was the classic way that bartering was done, in the Middle East. You would say, oh, this thing, it's only worth $100. Yeah, you can have it for free. And you say, well, I wouldn't even, so that's like, it was the way of bartering it back and forth. But anyway, according to the pshat of the psukim, according to what explicitly he's saying, I'm not even going to ask you anything for it. Okay, so it says, so first he promised to basically give it to him for free. So Avram heard what Ephron was really getting at. He paid him the full amount. Okay, not only did he pay him the full amount, over la socher. It was the type of coins that would be, accepted by any merchant. Although Charlie will tell us it's not coins, but it's the type of metal that was stamped in a way that anybody would accept it and accept its weight. So the Gemara says, at the end of the day, Ephron only would refuse to accept from Avraham ela kantari, except for a certain type of a large coin that was, that was acceptable in all types of, by all merchants, but apparently also of greater weight. So it wasn't only a standard 400 shekel, although shekel seems to be a weight, but anyway, it was a large 400 shekel. So he said he would give it for free, and in the end, he demanded a great deal. There are places that call a shekel a kantari, so a shekel that's over la socher is actually even a bigger coin than a shekel. Okay, ksiv, back to Avram. It says, kemach, the ksiv, soles. He says, kemach soles. He goes to Sarah and he says, take kemach flour, soles fine flour. So the Gemara says, which is it? Is it coarse flour or is it fine flour? So rather than reading it as just an adjective, what type of flour, fine flour, it reads it as two different things. So the Gemara says, the woman is a little bit more reluctant to give, the food to the guests as much as the man is. So he presumably, so it's not exactly clear. So why did Avram say kemach soles? But apparently the way they're reading it is that either he said soles and she only wanted to give kemach, or he said, don't give just kemach, make sure that it's soles. Anyway, it's interesting why the Gemara assumes this. Elsewhere the Gemara assumes that, women are more compassionate or more generous, besides that it's, drawing like broad generalizations, between the sexes. But anyway, maybe women are in the kitchen and they know how much food that they actually have and have to feed their family. And it's very easy for the man to just sort of promise a lot, Anyway, that's the Gemara's interpretation here. Okay, ksiv lushi vasiu goat, knead them and make cakes. And then it says he gave them the milk and the butter and the meat. And it never says what happened to the bread. So l'kamayu Amar Ephraim maksha'a Talmido Sherebbi Meir. Where do we ever have an Ephraim maksha'a, right? And then it says the student of Rebbe Meir, right? When does it ever say somebody the Talmud of X? Anyway, Mishmei Rebbe Meir, in the name of Rebbe Meir, Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu was, only even ate his non-sanctified food only in a state of purity. It couldn't have come in contact with any tum'ah. And that day, Sarah returned to her youthfulness, and she got her period again after having been a woman of 90. So she became a nida. So therefore, her touching of the bread made the bread tameh. So that's why he couldn't serve it to them. it's fascinating on many levels. But anyway, one point I'll just bring out is that, okay, he ate his chulin b'tara, but why couldn't he give it to them? Right, so that's interesting. Like, that even if they wouldn't have cared, right? He thought that they were Arabs, maybe idolaters or whatever. But like, what does it mean that you give them something that you yourself wouldn't eat, right? Even if it's just because of your own personal compunction. It's not that the food is any worse, right? But that's somehow like you're treating them as less than you. So I think that's something interesting, because he wouldn't eat it. He didn't feed it to them. Yes.
Abraham seems to not have realized that these are actually angels.
Well, that's part of the whole story, yes. Yeah. And the interesting question is, does he even realize by the end of the story that they're angels? That's just a pshat question in the pshat.
Yeah. His suggestion is when he wasn't serving them, he was eating with them.
He was eating with them. He didn't want them to feel that they're eating the bread and he's not eating the bread. That's a good point too. Right. Part of making them comfortable is that you break bread with somebody. You're not just to serve them. Although it's interesting because it says, "Who omeid aleihem tachas ha'etz vayochelu." I always assumed the simple sense of the puzzle was he was attending them and they were eating.
He was the attendant.
Right. Okay, Vayom love. They said to him, where's Sarah, right? Vayom neba oel. Lodia shesari menu tnuaita. So to tell you she's in the tent, like she's not out here in public, she's where women should be, in the tent. So this is obviously an idea of the Gemara of tzniut, which is that women are private and not out in the public. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, Yitem Rav Yitzchak, Yodi ma Yimalach Yeshar Shesai Minu Ba'ol Haita. Obviously they knew, so why did they ask him? Like, well, Ella, now, my Ba'ohel, Kedei L'chaveva al Ba'ala. In order to make her dear to her husband, so her husband should realize, oh, she's so tznius, she's in the tent. So you want to, that's the way Rashi does it, right? You didn't have to explicitly connect it to the previous thing. That what made her dear to her husband was that he remembered how tznius she was. It could have just been that by asking after, somebody's husband or somebody's wife, it brings up, warm feelings. But that's why they did it. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina Makidei L'Shager L'Kos Shel Bracha. No. It was because they actually wanted, and this actually I think is a nicer read, they wanted to somehow incorporate her in what they were doing. And I think that's closer to the pshat, right? They're about to tell him something that's going to happen to Sarah, his wife, right? So, right, admittedly, she was in the tent, right? Obviously, clearly, in that society, it would be inappropriate for the woman to be out there, right, attending to these male guests and so on, right? But the point is, do you just tell the husband something that applies to the wife? How do you make the wife more of a subject in that, less of somebody that's just talked about? It's actually something that relates to her. So by sort of, at least in his mind, bringing her into the conversation, whereas Sarah, like this is a message that is directed not, to Sarah as well. She's not here, but the message is directed to Sarah. It's not just directed to you. So I think that by saying that to send her the kos shel bracha, right? You benched, and after you benched, you send her the cup that she could drink from it. That's the way that even if she's not in the room, she's part of the proceedings. You recognize her presence, you recognize her participation, even when she's not in the room. So I think that that's a very powerful read, and probably like the pshat of the psukim of why they're bringing up Sarah. Okay. So, today l'shaga kos shel bracha. Tani mishum Rabbi Yossi, lama nakod al ayo shebe'elav, ayomu elav, ayei sarai ishtecha. Why does it have the dots over the aleph, the yud and the vav? What do those dots signify? Because that's how it's written in the Sefer Torah. So, Linzer Torah derech eretz. The Torah is teaching you a proper practice, courtesy. Sheyishol adam b'achsanya shelo. That you should ask after your hostess. You're being hosted by somebody, you ask the host about the hostess. Now, where does you get that from the dots over the word elav? So Rashi just says, well, because the dots are extra, so therefore, it's just signaling to you that you should know that this is a general practice. Okay, so what does that have to do with specifically those letters? So Tosas actually says, no, actually the Gemara means the flip. Ayeh, where is Sarah Ishtecha? If that's over the Aleph, Yud, and the Vav, if you just read those letters, what does that spell? Ayo, which is Ayeh in the masculine. So it really is saying the same way when you're dealing with the host, you say, how's your wife doing? Then when you're dealing with the hostess, you say, how's your husband doing? So it's actually not about, it's actually telling you the gender equality here. Okay, so that's the way Tosfos reads it. That so the Gemara says, "V'hamar Shmuel." Now, how can you say that when you're dealing with a host, you should ask after the wife? Doesn't Shmuel say, "Ein sholim b'shlom yisha klal," that you don't ask after the welfare of somebody's wife because maybe it leads to inappropriate interactions? So, what are you doing so interested in my wife? So the Gemara says, so Eino Sholim Bishaklal, so Ayde Balashani. No. If you can ask her husband, right, then it wouldn't be inappropriate, right? Because nobody is going to try to, sort of arrange some assignation or whatever, through the husband. So therefore, if you could ask the husband, how's your wife doing?
Who else would you ask?
Please send your wife my best. I don't know. You can ask your wife. That would also be a little funny. Anyway, fine. You don't ask the woman her. So it might be you're not supposed to even ask the woman herself. Okay. Because you asked her, hey, how have you been? How you doing? Whatever. Then that's like then you start having too many interactions with women, which is dangerous.
By the way,
yes.
the shot is in other words, in traditional Bedouin tents, the wives have their own tents. They don't eat together. The husbands and the wives don't eat together.
Uh-huh.
The men and the women are completely separate.
Interesting.
When
Right.
guests come, the
women
wives-
eat separately from the men.
The women are definitely in a different
Right.
tent.
Right.
They're not-
Yeah, I mean, clearly that society, that was sort of the tzniut of that society, right? So absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's harder and harder to find that today because Bedouin.
Look,
but you can still find
when
it.
Haredim poskim deal with the issue of Sheva Brachos, a regular question comes up, are you allowed to say Sheva Brachos if the Kala isn't in the room? Because the Kala is off in her room with her women friends, and the groom is in his room with his friends. Here they are, they're just married. You're celebrating the marriage, but the men and the women are in two totally separate spaces. So can you say Sheva Brachos with the groom without there being the Kala present? So clearly, that was, anyway. But I do think the idea of to center the Kos Shel Bracha is a powerful way of saying, how do we include her? How do we include her even if she's not here? Okay, so the Gemara says like this, last of the narrow lines. After I was worn away, after my old age, I had youth. Vadoni Zakein, and the end of after the flesh had been worn away and the wrinkles had increased. Now the flesh had become youthful, supple. And the wrinkles had flattened out. So that's what and the beauty returned to its place. So I just thought this was funny. Rashi says that the French word for kmatim, Rashi says, was prutsant, so whatever that is. But anyway, to me it looked like the word prunes. Just thought I'd mention that anyway. So the Gemara says like this. Okay, see, it says Vadoni Zakein. Now when Sarah is saying, how can I, after I've grown old, have youth? By the way, the funny thing here is that Sarah is sort of saying it as a rhetorical statement, and the Gemara is reading it literally. After I've grown old, I should have youth. And my master is old, right? So the Gemara reads it as, look, this just happened. I just became young, right? That's the Gemara. She became a Nida. She got her period back, right? So actually, she's describing a miracle that just occurred. But the pshat of the psukim is she's saying, should I be able to become youthful again? And also, my master is old. Vadoni Zakein, Avram is old. The Ksiv, Va'ani Zakanti. Now, when God tells it over to Avram, he says, Lama zet tzakacha Sarah lemor ha'afu name leid va'ani zakanti. Sarah said, how could I have birth and I've grown old? And God did not say what Sarah said, but she said, how could I have birth and Avraham is old? Okay, so the Gemara says, God did not say back to Avram what Sarah had said. So we talking about Gadol Shalom, great is peace, like in Shalom Bayis, between husband and wife. Even God changed, the statement in order not to create marital discord. Sarah said, how come my master is old? Even when God told it over, it says, why did Sarah laugh, saying, I am old? Now, the interesting issue is that I think it's the Chassam Sofer, one of the poskim say, that this does not mean an outright lie. God actually it was the selective truth, because Sarah actually did say that she was old. I mean, not with those words, but she said, after I have, been worn away, how can I have youth? So Sarah basically was saying, I'm old and Avraham is old. And when God told it over, he only told over half of it. that she said that she was old. Now I don't know if that's pshat of the psuk, pshat of the Gemara, because it might be pshat of the psuk, not pshat of the Gemara, because the Gemara actually is having Sarah not say she's old, is having Sarah say that she just became youthful. Right? Not that she's being rhetorical and and wondering, but she actually is declaring that she became youthful. So according to the Gemara, God really did say the complete opposite, or not, whatever, but did not say a partial truth, actually said something different than what Sarah said. Okay, anyway, the Gemara says like this. Back to now, she gave birth, and we were fast forwarding a little bit, and it's the party when Yitzchak is weaned. But Mimi lel Avraham, who has spoken to Avraham, Hinika banim Sarah, that Sarah would nurse children. So the Gemara says, Kama banim Hinika Sarah. What do you mean banim? How many children did she nurse? She only nursed one child. So why is it in the plural? So Amar Rabbi Levi, also Yom Shegam al Avraham es Yitzchak, that day that Avraham weaned Yitzchak, Beno, Asa Suda Gedola, he made a big feast. And everybody was mocking her, and saying, did you see this elderly couple? They brought this foundling from the marketplace. They found this orphan, and they're claiming it's their son. What, 100-year-old, a 90-year-old they gave birth? What a joke. It's all a fake. And they're making a big feast in order to make people believe that this is true. Everybody will now talk about the feast and the weaning, whatever. It's all a farce. So, where did Avram go? So, so he made sure that all of the idea of a gadol ador is already in the Gemara, except happens to be a non-Jew at that time. he invited all of the great people of that generation, and Sarah all of their wives, so that everybody should be present and see. And everybody brought their children with them, their infants with them. They did not bring the nursemaids. And a miracle happened with Sarah. And her breasts opened up like two well springs. And she was able to nurse all of them. So that's Hinika Banim. So everybody saw that you can't nurse unless you've given birth. That it really was her child. Okay, so now of course skeptics
There were rivers.
Right. Right, exactly. So now, of course, skeptics are never satisfied. So they would still be like gossiping and mocking and saying, maybe Sarah, who is 90, echoing the pasuk here, 90 years old could give birth, but Avraham but could Avraham have sire children? So maybe there's clear evidence that Sarah is the mother, but who knows if Avraham is the father? Of course, the irony is that I think a man can sire children even at the age of 100 or whatever. The semen is still potent. But anyway, that's what they were saying. Who said it was Avraham? Okay, so Miyad immediately nefach klester panim shel Yitzchak. So Yitzchak's visage immediately changed, transformed. V'nidmela Avram, and immediately, and he looked like Avram. Of course, it's pretty funny. So for the first years of his infancy, he looked different. But then all of a sudden, his face changed. Anyway.
By the way, that is what happened. That's exactly what happened.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of like which
babies look like change.
Uh huh.
And I was like, oh, it looks like you. It looks like you.
But then eventually,
the face matured.
Okay.
Right.
Which
means that everything in this just happened exactly.
Okay, right. Okay, so then after he went out of the baby stage, his face, let's say it this way, when his facial features sort of clarified, it became clear he looked just like Avraham. So they could tell that he was Avram's son. Okay, where were we? So then everybody conceded and said Avraham holida Yitzchak, right, which is the beginning of the parsha of Toldos. Yitzchak ben Avraham. Everybody admitted Avraham holida Yitzchak. Now the Gemara has different shifting gears a little bit. Avram lo zikna. Until Avram's time, there was no old age. People died, but they didn't go through a period where their age was reflected in their body. Okay, which is very strange because You just have the whole story about Avram and Sarah wondering if they can give birth. And clearly it seems like Sarah's body was different, right? So maybe men weren't, I don't know. So let's take a look what the Gemara describes this. If somebody wanted to talk to Avram, Mishdai Bahadi Yitzchak would accidentally be talking to Yitzchak, because now we say that Yitzchak looked like Avraham, and there was no difference in age. Age wasn't reflected on their body. So Avram looked just like Yitzchak, even as adults. So people would be talking to the wrong person. Okay? Bahadi Yitzchak, if you want to talk to Yitzchak, Mishdai Bahadi Avram, you'd wind up talking to Avraham. So, and this was a real problem. You couldn't tell the son from the father. So, Asa Avraham, boy Rachame, Avram came and prayed that the old age should be reflected on him. Vavi Sikna, and there was old age, and Avram Zakein, Baba Yamin. So, and the point is that this is the first time in the Torah that says that somebody was old. Okay, so it's interesting, right? I mean, because the psukim earlier do reflect the fact. Obviously, old age would change your ability to have children, right? Adoni Zakein. I mean, it's interesting. The Gemara didn't even quote that before. It says Avram Zakein by Yamin, which is when he goes to look for a wife for Yitzchak. Earlier it said Adoni Zakein. So currently, I don't even know how they make that work, right? She's saying Adoni Zakein, and according to this, Avram only wanted Zikna after Yitzchak was born and started looking like it. But besides which, the Gemara could accept the idea that after a certain age, you're harder to have children. That's clearly in the whole narrative of Avram and Sarah, but it's saying that it wasn't reflected on the body. But again, by Sarah, it was reflected on their body. She says below C, and the Gemara even emphasizes that. So
I get that this little concern about the origin of old age is said in that hermeneutic context.
Right.
But it's a very powerful mythic explanation, but it links aging with identity. Like Avram, the Rachamim was Avram was losing his identity. People didn't know who he was. There's some link here.
Right.
Between the way you change over time.
Right.
As you age.
Right.
And your uniqueness.
Right.
And that's about like...
Right. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, it does have to, because it specifically puts it in the context that Yitzchak looked just like him. Yeah. But I would sort of reframe it as, do you want to look where, I mean, some people do, but like the Gemara is saying, like, you don't, but at least the Gemara is saying, Avram did not want to look when he was 80 like he looked like when he was 40. He wants, his life experience and his age or whatever to be reflected in how he looks.
That's
right.
Countercultural to contemporary stuff.
Right. Everybody wants to look young.
You're
right.
Before.
Exactly. And so it's also especially if you believe that a society in which honors, right, and reveres older age, right? So then clearly you want that reflected. Yeah. But even without a question about receiving honor, but just like, you don't want to look anymore like a 10-year-old or a 20-year-old, right? You've gone through a lot in life, and you may, if you own that, then you want that sort of reflected. So anyway, exactly. So, okay, Ad Yaakov, now here's another story. Ad Yaakov lo have chusha. Until Yaakov, there was no real sickness. Because it doesn't say people got sick before that. Asa Yaakov by Rachmi v'avichusha. Yaakov prayed, and there was sickness leading to death. That's the first time it says that somebody was sick. Okay, now why does somebody want sickness? So again, this is sickness leading to, you could say sickness in general, puts you in touch with the fragility of life, makes you more sensitive, more vulnerable, etc. But here I think it's specifically about also leading to death, because, it's preparing for your death. If there's an illness leading up to death, you're able to prepare mentally, put your affairs in order, and so on. The challenge nowadays is that the dying process is so prolonged, right? So it raises other challenges. Until Elisha came, lo have techalish v'itpach. Nobody got sick and got better. All you had was the sickness leading to death. Now Elisha prayed not that he should be healed from his sickness. So then it was introduced the idea that the sickness doesn't always lead to death. He had the sickness that he would die by it, which indicates that he had become sick other times. And until that point, it never said somebody got sick and got better. Only by Elisha do you see implicitly that he had been sick before and got better. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, which also creates this powerful whole tshuva model, right? If you associate sickness with death, and then you're sick, but you know that you can maybe pray and get better, right? Then the whole thing becomes very much about doing tshuva and praying and so on, and creates this whole other dynamic, right? What to do about the fact that you just get head colds, and when that happened, like I don't know if the Gemara is referring at all to that type of sickness. It might be referring only to like serious illness, you know? Okay, so Tanu Rabbanan, our rabbis taught Shlosha Chalaim Chala Elisha. Elisha had 3 sicknesses. Echad sheduchvo legechazi b'shtei yadav. One he got for pushing away Gechazi with 2 hands. You know, Gechazi acted inappropriately. He called back the whoever, who was it? Naaman, who was the guy? Anyway, to get all the gifts. Anyway, and Elisha pushed him back, you know, not pushed him with the right, you know, with the left and draw him close with the right, but, you know, totally rejected him. The Echad Shegiva Dubin B'tinokos. You might remember the kids were mocking him, and
42,
he said,
42.
Yeah, and he sent the bears after them. The Echad, I'm very happy. So far in the last 2 dapim, we've had my name come up twice. We had the bear of fire. Yeah. You might remember that anyway, fine. The Echad, okay. The Echad Shemaisbo. Yeah, I don't necessarily doing good things here. I don't know. Anyway, one that brought about his death. Okay. Finally, shifting gears from the Agadata. Okay. So this is the father say before they start, and then we'll have to give them huge feasts. Tell them, no. I'm only going to feed you bread and some legumes. So Amalei Ravacha bread to Rav Yosef, Rav Chizda, pat kitnistan. Do we mean a bread made out of legumes, like rice bread or something? Or pas vikitnistan. Do we mean bread and legumes? Amalei Ha'Elohim tzricha vav. No, it needs the vav. Pas vikitnis. That's what he was sort of, and that's what he was agreeing. Ki morida delivrot. Like you need a. Rashi says the morida is like this a big stick that you would use on a boat, like to keep away from the shore. And like when you're going down this river, there was a river called Livrot. So anyway, you would need that stick to keep away from the shore. I guess like a vav is like a stick. So you need to separate, I guess, the words of pas and kitnis. Like you need this stick to keep the boat away from the shore. No, Livrot is the name of the river. Like you need that stick when you're going in the river, I think as Rashi says. Yeah. Right. Oh no, I got it reversed. Morida is the name of the river, and the Livrot. Shema Nahar Morida.
Mordaya 8.
No, I was right the first one. Right, Morida is Shema Nahar, and the Morida, right. The Livrot is the name of the river, and the Morida is the stick that keeps you in the middle. That keeps you in the middle of the river. Okay. Even if you stipulate with them to feed them, you don't give them more than the standard. Okay, Hakol Asiyimai, when it says everything goes by the standard, what do you mean by everything? You hire a worker and you say, what's your pay going to be? Yeah, what the normal workers get paid. Okay, like a normal person in the city will get paid for the job. So what does that mean? Let's say there's a range. Nothing like you give them the bottom end of the scale. Okay, no. You give him the median of the scale, the average of the scale, not the bottom. So what does that say? Hakol Kamig Medina. Which one of those is the minhag Medina? You know, as the Gemara assumes that the minhag means to push you, not to say to give the very bottom is not the minhag. The minhag would mean some type of a average. You know, if you want to be the standard doesn't mean the minimum. So if there's a range, the standard is in the middle. All right. So now we go on. Yes.
Sorry.
Please, yeah.
Why
all the Agadata? Yeah, well, there was a good, it was, I mean, certainly we introduced the idea of the Seuda of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Now, we just said they're children of Avram, Yitzchak, they deserve a big Seuda. It wasn't linked to the Seuda of Avraham, but the Gemara did link it that way, and that gave them, the Gemara sometimes uses an opening. I mean, obviously there were these Agadic traditions, right? Some of them are stored in Bereshis Rabbah. You know that there were these traditions because they appear often in parallel in the Bavli and the Yerushalmi, right? So the Gemara sometimes, sometimes it brings in Agadata to deepen and elaborate a halachic discussion. Sometimes if you give it a little opening, it'll say, oh, well, we need to tell where we're going to talk about all the Agadata about Avraham. Here's a perfect place, so that's why they do it.
No, it goes all the way back to Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yomi.
Right, so that is true. Sometimes the Gemara does decide, we're going to now spend some time on Agadata. There were multiple openings, right? What was the opening before that got us into the whole stuff about Rabbi Yomi and Reish Lakish?
I was thinking about it. You have to go back to page.
Yeah, I don't even remember how we initially got there.
right? At the top of
Gimel.
Hey Gimel
Rabbi,
Amud Bet, you've got Rav Yosef, My Dichtiv, Tashet Choshech V'ilayla. How do we get to that?
It's a whole
In other words, there's a link.
Yeah,
somewhere.
somehow. I mean, it
There's
is
a
so
link.
much through like one thing leading to another thing, right? But partly it's just that it had an opportunity to do it, and it is true. Sometimes it wants to say like this is going to be a big agadic section, like you have that in Gittin, you have that elsewhere. Okay, what I actually find interesting is whether that the Yerushalmi sometimes links. It's always by like this, like sometimes a tenuous link, and sometimes the Yerushalmi has it in exactly the same place as the Bavli. Not also, which also shows that there was like this is where we discuss this agadita, type of a tradition, right?
Well, so that's why I'm like, these seem to, like the link between these and Bava Metzia doesn't seem very
right. So I don't think.
About, like,
Right. So it's really nice when the Agadita is there to be a reflection on some of the halachic themes, right? And then that's very rich, sort of the way those interact.
Yeah.
But I think we have to accept that sometimes maybe you could read it this way, find a way to make the link. But I do think sometimes it's just like they had a Agadita they wanted to tell, where are you going to tell it? Okay. Okay, Mishnah. The Elu Ochlim Min Torah. Now we shift because we are going back to the idea of like workers' rights. It wasn't all about workers' rights. There was different things about like what are the terms of the stipulations and so on. But obviously that's the broader theme. Like what are the terms, and therefore what sort of things are there to protect workers or to, and so here we turn to actually a mitzvah of the Torah, which is when you have somebody working for you, they're allowed to eat. Right? The Torah says that when you you go into your friend's vineyard. You can eat, the grapes to satisfy yourself, but don't store it up in your thing. But as you're going through, you can eat grapes, and there's no limit. Now, the psukim there don't say that you are working. According to the simple sense of the psukim, you could say, I could just walk into your vineyard and start eating grapes, right? I'm crossing through your vineyard to get from one place to the other. I mean, that's a big problem. Just because I'm cutting through your yard, first of all, who lets me cut through your yard, right? Trespassing. And I'm cutting through your yard, and here's some grapes. I'm going to eat some grapes. Like we would call that, theft, right? So the Gemara, and we'll see how it does it in the psukim, understand that, no, we're not talking about somebody just cutting through the yard. We're talking about you're working for the person. And then it's sort of like the halacha of lo sachsam shor b'disho. As a cow is threshing, you can't muzzle it. Like, what does it mean to be working for someone and having all this food around you and not being able to actually, take some of it? So it allows a worker as he's working to nibble on the food, or actually not even nibble. You can fill yourself up, but you can't store it away. Okay. So the Gemara now tries to identify what are the parameters when a worker is allowed to be doing this. Yes.
Just a side point. So according to the Talmud, I can't walk through your field. Or can I walk?
Well, the Gemara discussed that earlier in Baba Kama, that Yoshua was manchilas haaretz and certain tnaim to allow it under certain circumstances, but not in other circumstances. The general rule is no. There are certain exceptions to it. Yeah.
But Shemitah, your field isn't yours at all.
Well, that's true. Let's look at the Mishnah. The following workers are entitled to eat the food that they're working with. If you're dealing with stuff that's still growing from the ground, that's connected to the ground, and you're dealing with it during the sort of final period. Basically, you're picking the apples, you're harvesting the grapes. If you're just weeding or watering or whatever, the stuff is still growing, you can't. But if you're in the process of finishing it, picking it out of the ground, then you can actually take some for yourself.
If I'm harvesting the apples, I can eat one of the apples.
Exactly. Okay, now let's say you're dealing with stuff that's already been taken off of the ground. You're dealing with stomping on the grapes. Okay, so ad shelo nigmar malachto. You can do it until the malacha is not complete. Now here the word of malacha complete means something else. Before the malacha complete meant until the time when you are actually doing the harvesting. Here, you do it until it's done, and until it's done is going to have a halachic meaning, like until it's fit for trumas and maasros, but we'll see what that means. But the point to remember is that it's basically a mirror image. When it's connected to the ground, you're only entitled to do it when it is the final labor of taking it from the ground. When it's not connected to the ground, after it's been harvested, you're only entitled to do it before the end of the process, okay? So just remember that they're mirror images, okay? And when it's not connected to the ground, at least you have to have come from the ground. The following can't eat, so this is just going to be the reverse. If you're dealing with stuff connected to the ground, if it's prior to the end of the stage, if it's been harvested, after the basic work has basically been done. Okay? And if it's something that doesn't grow from the ground, you're also not allowed to eat. Let's start the Gemara about where this comes from. Minani Mili, what's the source of this? If you go into your friend's vineyard, you shall eat. Ashkan Kerem, we know it's a vineyard. Komili Minalan, how do I know other things other than a vineyard? Gemina mi Kerem. No, Kerem is a paradigm. Ma Kerem Yucha Davar Shegidulo Karko B'Shas Kamar Malacha Pol Ochabo. Kerem has the following features. It grows from the ground. It is the period of ending of the labor, the harvesting, and a worker can eat. We don't know yet it's a worker, but we'll show that. We'll just extrapolate anything like that. No, the Gemara says maybe it's only a vineyard. Kerem has a special gift that's given to the poor, the olulos, the unfinished grapes. So maybe it has your special entitlement for workers. Maybe it doesn't apply to other types of produce. No, Kamina Mikama, there's another source. Because the Gemara speaks about when you're harvesting wheat. When you come into your friend's standing wheat, and you can take with your hand, some of the kernels. But then it says, you can't go with your sickle and start harvesting for yourself some of the wheat. You can pick some of the kernels with your hands. So therefore, it applies to a vineyard and applies to wheat, so it applies to everything. So it says 1 minute. Maybe only wheat, because wheat has a special thing. You give challah, so maybe also give this thing to the workers. How do you know we're talking about grain and it's something that you bring challah from? Maybe anything standing, which would include, I don't know, like Rashi says, kidneys, like legumes or something like that. I don't know, legumes have the same sense of a standing and tall, but anyway, what? Corn. Oh, corn. That's a good point. Corn. So anyway, no, asya kama. Your friend's standing grain. This is the cutting of the barley for the omer. The same way, that's one of the grains, and you bring challah from it. Here too. So okay, we have vineyard, we have grain, and we assume that this is grain, not corn or other things. So maybe only those things where there are special gifts that are given from it. Maybe it's limited to kama, where you give challah from it. No, kerem yochiach. No, it's not about challah, because you give from the vineyard. Maybe that's unique because you give this special thing of olos to the poor. No, that's not true. Kama, you don't give that gift. It goes back and forth. Each one's unique feature is not like the other. The common denominator, it grows. And when you do the final labor, the worker can eat. So we'll abstract it, and that's how we generalize it. So the Gemara, though, isn't done. 1 minute, says the Gemara. Both corn, both wheat and grapes, something is given to the altar. Wine and flour. Okay, so maybe it only applies to types of produce that you give to the altar. The asanami zayis, so that would include olives. The isbeit tzad mizbeach, because oil is you use for the a mincha. Okay, the zayis b'mehatzad asi, that will extrapolate from the common denominator. Who? So okay, I'm serious. So maybe that will include, but we won't include everything. So the Gemara says, zayis b'mehatzad asi. What you want to say? That's what you extrapolate the idea of olives. Who gufe keren ikri? We know that itself is included in keren. Olives are called a keren. Dichsiv vayivar migadish v'ad kamav ad keren zayis, until a vineyard of olives, or kerem of olives. Right. Amarav Papa. Right. Kerem zayis ikri. It's called a kerem of olives. Kerem stam aloki, but not a stam kerem. Stam kerem means a vineyard. So the Gemara is saying you have vineyard of grapes, you have standing grain of wheat, you can infer olives, but how do you know to go beyond olives, something that isn't brought to the Mizbeach? So let's just read the one answer here. Amarav Papa, I'm sorry. So Mikomakam Kasha, how do you know to go beyond olives? Ella Amar Shmuel Amar Kra, the Chermesh. It says, do not bring your sickle to cut it down. L'rabos kol ba'alei chermesh, anything that would have a sickle brought to it, which would include things like corn. I know they didn't have corn or whatever, but things that are not just brought to the altar. So the Gemara, if you could just give me 2 more minutes here, we'll just finish this thought. The Gemara says, "V'hai chermesh mi ba'alei b'shas." 1 minute, you can't use chermesh to include all types of produce. We needed to tell me something else. B'shas chermesh echol, you can only eat while you're doing the harvesting, like while the sickle is being brought. Lo b'shas chermesh lo seichol. The idea we said earlier, that it can only be done during the Gemar Malacha, as you are doing the final process. The Gemara says no. That we know from elsewhere. Ahu mi el kel yichal lo titein nafka. Don't put it into your vessel. So meaning don't put it into your vessel, because whose vessel are you supposed to be putting it into? The owner's vessel. So from that we infer that we're talking about the time when you're doing the Gemar Malacha. So we don't need Chermesh to tell me the time you're doing the Gemar Malacha, because we infer it from the idea you're putting in your owner's vessel and not yours. So Chermesh is telling me it applies to all produce, not just produce that goes on the altar. So now the Gemara has one last question. That includes things that you would bring a sickle to. The lav bar chermesh minala, and how about things you don't bring a sickle to? So el amar v'yitzchak amar kra kama, standing. Rabbos kol baalei kama, anything that grows. The Gemara says, how can you say that? V'amarta kama kama de mechayva b'kala. You said kama only includes grain that you bring challah from. How can you say the word kama now means anything that grows? Hani mili mikmi denesi chermesh. That was before we had chermesh to broaden it. That to say to include anything that you bring a sickle to. Now that chermesh includes anything you bring a sickle to, it's not limited to things that you make challah from. It includes even like kitnios or whatever. So once it's not limited to things you bring challah from, what does the word kama mean? So Israbile called the bar chamesh, dasi chemesh Israbile called the bar chermesh. We learn to include anything you bring a sickle to. The avagav de lo mechayva b'kala, even though you don't bring challah from it. So therefore, kama lamali. So what does kama include? Lahashto l'rabos ko ba'alei kama, anything that grows. Okay, so that was I did that pretty quickly, but the basic point was, okay, that we learned the idea that it's limited to the time of doing the actual Gemar Malacha from the El Kel Yichal Lo Titein, and we learned from the idea that it's talking about kerem and wheat, and then we generalize, but how can you really broaden it to everything? Well, on the one hand, Chermesh tells you anything you bring a sickle to. Once Chermesh tells me anything you bring a sickle to, it's not limited to things that go on the altar. Once it's not limited to things that go on the altar, the word kama, standing, means anything that stands, anything that grows. It doesn't just mean wheat, because we know it's not limited to those types of things. So then the word kama in that context means anything that grows. So we now generalize anything that grows at the time of the Gemar Malacha, you are entitled to eat. And we will pick up with this tomorrow. All right. Thank you for staying a little later.